Tatra Sankirtaneneva Sarvasvato Vilapyate Nahiyata Paramolabho Dehinam Ramyatam Iha Yato Vindeta Paramam Santim Nasyati Samsiti Deva Sivota Taninam Petrenam Nakin Karunayam Niricharajan Sarvatmanam Yasharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Parihrityakatam Swapada Bhajata Viyasya Chaktanya Bhavasya Hari Paresa Vikarma Yachot Patitam Katanchit Dunopi Sarvam Hridisani Vista Veire Nayam Nipataya Sisupala Pondra Salvada Yoga Tivilasa Vilokanatye Jayanta Kripta Dhiya Sayana Sanado Tam Samyamapur Anurakka Dhiyam Punakim Nivyastavamrita Katoda Bahastrilokya Pada Vaneja Sarita Samalani Hantum Anushravam Shrutivir Andrijam Angasanges Tirtha Dvayam Suchisadasta Upaspisanti Tata Vikriditam Krishna Nilam Paramamangalam Kama Piyusam Asajya Chajanti Anyas Prihamjana Tvayopa Bhukta Shradganda Vaso Lankara Chachitaha Uchista Bhojino Dasa Stavamayam Jayemahi Tasma Bhavantam Anavajam Anantaparam Sarvagya Ishwaram Akunta Vikunta Dishyam Nirvinadhiraham Uhe Vrijinabhitakto Narayanam Narasakam Sharanam Prapajye Yaprabhyanam Samlokam Mukti Dvaram Upavritam Grihe Sukara Vatsaktas Tam Arudha Chutam Vidu Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Last week, Bob, we covered till 16th verse. Okay, this chapter.
Yeah.
So, continuing on our discussion about the different processes of yoga system, and the question was put forth by Krishna, or rather Uddhava to Krishna, to explain about the yoga system. Krishna discusses, Prabhupada would say, the first business for any spiritualist on this path, be it Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga, is to control the mind. So, Krishna will first discuss about how one should be fixing one's mind, remembering him, and then once that is done, then Krishna would elaborate on the externals, which is one should not be seated on a platform which is too high, too low. One should be gazing at the tip of the nose, so on and so forth. What will we see in 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita? So this section, especially from 17 to 30, we are in Canto 11, chapter 14. So this verse from 17 till about like almost 30th verse, another 13, 14 verses. Krishna will discuss about how to control one's mind, how to abstain from gratifying one's own senses, and how one should actually meditate and purify himself. So we'll go verse by verse. So text 17, Canto 11, chapter 14, Lord Krishna explains the yoga system. Those who are without any desire for personal sense gratification, whose minds are always attached to me, who are peaceful, without false ego, and merciful to all living entities, and whose consciousness is never affected by opportunities for sense gratification. Such persons enjoy in me a happiness that cannot be known or achieved by those lacking such detachment from the material world. When we come to Krishna consciousness and we start to practice Krishna consciousness, we look at other devotees who have been practicing the process for a while, and you hear about how on Ekadashi they don't take grain, you get a shock. And you hear devotees wake up early in the morning, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, you get a shock. And you come to the temple, you see devotees dancing, more shocking. And just when you settle with vegetarian diet, you are told no onion and garlic also. Then shock after shock after shock, you can't even relate to devotees. How are they surviving? What's the point? There is one pastime that comes to my mind. Once, this happened in the 70s, there was a person who was a thief, a small-time thief, but he has done enough nefarious activities to be put in jail. But he was evading law, running. So one day he was chased by a few policemen. He ran, came to the Hare Krishna temple premises, and then he thought it's better I somehow hide here. If I go out, I'll get caught. So he came in, and as soon as he goes in, one devotee welcomed him. Oh Prabhu, please come. And he felt very happy. Outside policemen are chasing me. Devotees are welcoming me, so let me go here. All of us have that experience. When you come to Krishna consciousness, all of us have this feeling. Some devotee welcomed us and we felt, there is somebody who is respecting me. There is somebody who is valuing me for what I am. Because in material world, it's very, very hard to get such a feeling. The amount of glories one devotee forward gave me. Spider-Man, when he does like this, then the web actually goes there. So he says, I'm going to the temple and soon it will be like, and the meme actually says there are 3 Spider-Man with Tilak, but Spider-Man mask. And everyone is actually showing like this. And instead of web, it's actually going, pure devotee, you are pure devotee, you are pure devotee, like that. And likewise everyone is saying. So when you come to temple, devotees glorify you. We have never heard glorification. I remember Govind Charan once told me, in Krishna consciousness only, when you are making progress, other devotees will clap hands and they will genuinely encourage you to go forward. Everyone will clap. But in material world, there may be clapping, but the motive in the mind will always be, I should be there. He said, receiving all this, look at me, what am I doing, like that. So, all of us have that experience. So this devotee went in, somebody welcomed him, and then the devotee gave him prasad, he took. After some time, he was given a place to rest. He took rest, and the devotee who welcomed him asked him later, would you like to stay with us? Then this thief thought like maybe it's a good opportunity. Anyway, prison is waiting for me. Let me prolong my stay as long as I can, evade. Maybe who knows, I'll be able to escape. So then he stays there doing tremendous amount of service, day in and day out, started waking up for Mangalarati. He didn't wake up, devotees pulled him out of his bed. And then every day he was cleaning the temple, cooking for the devotees, so many services he was doing. But whenever the temple president would ask him to go for Sankirtan, at that time alone he would say like, no, I prefer to stay here and do. Because he knows if he leaves the premises, he'll get caught by the police. So, like this, few months went. So there was a day when the temple president had no one else to actually send outside for a service. So the temple president came and told this devotee, look, I know you don't prefer to go outside, but today I have no one else, you have to go. Then this devotee, resigning himself to the fate, he said, like, all right, I will go. As soon as he went outside, after like a few hours, he got spotted by one of the police who was originally chasing him. He got arrested. They take him to the court, and he is standing there. And the judge asks him, so did you commit all this? And he's saying, yes, I have nothing to hide. What's the point? I'm a Hare Krishna now, you know. So, you know, when you are karmi, before practicing Krishna consciousness, there are many things you would have done, you might have done. You will feel very ashamed even to admit to yourself, with the idea that as long as I reject, I'll feel pure, like that. But when you come to Krishna consciousness, you read in Prabhupada's books and you see, looks like every human is going through the same thing. And after becoming Hare Krishna, you don't mind. Yeah, I did it. You know, what's the big deal? But that was my karmi life, Prabhu. So he comes, the judge asks him, he tells to the judge, yes, I did all of this. So then, where were you all these days? He said, like, I was running here, there, but last few months I've become a Hare Krishna. Then the judge gets curious and he says, Hare Krishna, what did you do? What do you do? Then he tells the whole schedule. I wake up in the morning at 4 o'clock, 3:45, stand in the queue for a shower, you know, and then take shower, and then come for Mangalarati, dance, and then do Tulsi Arati, do japa for a couple of hours, so on. He just continues. And then, you know, morning service, cooking, cleaning, painting, and then evening again, class, everything he says. And then he says, during this time, I started following 4 regulative principles. Then he tells him, no meditating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. And he says, I chant 16 rounds. And vegetarian food, but no onion and garlic, everything he says. Then the judge hears all this and he says, this is worse than the prison. You better be a Hare Krishna. Then he dismisses the case and he tells him, go back to the temple. So nobody can actually relate to this process except devotees. But initially when we come to Krishna consciousness, we are very scared to take one step. But then as time progresses, we get used to it. Now, and then you look back at your past life, you feel very far distant away from it, you know. Was that me? Like that. So here, those who are without desire for personal sense gratification, general tendency for everyone is to gratify one's senses. Eva maishe krita saurudartha janeshu deham baravartikeshu griheshu jayat majarati matsu na priti yukta yavad arthas chaloke. This is Rishabhadev's instructions. Those who are eager to progress in Krishna consciousness, eva maishe krita sauhrudartha, those who are serious about establishing krita sauhrudartha, friendship with the Supreme Lord, friendship with Radha Gopinath. Eva maishe krita sauhrudartha janeshu deham baravartikeshu. They don't spend much time mingling with people who are after sense gratification. Griheshu jayat majarati matsu. Not only that, one will not be overly attached to even maintaining their own family, maintaining griha, their homes. Na priti yukta yavad arthas chaloke. That doesn't mean one is totally indifferent and one is not taking care of one's family. But one is not overly attached to that. One will do just as much as is needed. So, Rishabhdev actually says, those who are eager to progress in Krishna consciousness, this is their symptoms. So here it's given those who are without any desire for personal gratification, whose minds are always attached to me, who are peaceful, without false ego, and merciful to all living entities, and whose consciousness is never affected by opportunities for sense gratification. Krishna is clearly saying there will be opportunities for sense gratification. You know, sometimes you get this argument. If Krishna didn't want me to enjoy, then why would he create opportunities for sense gratification? How will you reply? If Krishna doesn't want me to enjoy, then he wouldn't have created the avenues for sense enjoyment.
But actually speaking, it's true that Krishna did actually create all this, of course, based on our desires. But Krishna wants us to enjoy not by indulging in it, rather by giving up on them. Do we give up? Have we got experience of giving up things and feel happy about it? Definitely yes. Sometimes you will see a businessman starting a business, some initiative, some venture, new venture. And then he or she invests some money, and when they see, this is not going quite good, they feel relieved as soon as they say like, okay, whatever loss I made, it's fine, let me just shut down the business. That will give them relief. Some instances, you may pursue something that is very, very dear to you. But after some time you actually realize, I'm pursuing to achieve something, but rather than inspiration, I'm getting into this mood of depression, so it's better I just let go of things. You let go. Okay, even when you pass stool, you are giving up part of your body. You still feel happy. So all of us have experience of giving up things and deriving joy, giving up things and deriving happiness out of it. So Krishna is saying all this sense enjoyment or the avenues for sense gratification one is supposed to give up. And then one will be able to enjoy happiness that way. Such persons enjoy in me a happiness that cannot be known or achieved by those lacking such detachment from material world. Bhoga Aishwarya Prashaktanam Taya Apahrita Chetasham Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Samadhavana Vidiyate. Verse 18, my dear Uddhava, not having fully conquered his senses, my devotee may be harassed by material desires. Again, you can clearly see Krishna knows the psychology, Krishna knows the problems which we face. My dear Uddhava, not having fully conquered his senses, my devotee, Krishna is still recognizing. My devotee may be harassed by material desires, but because of his unflinching devotion for me, he will not be defeated by sense gratification. Prabhupada would say about his extended family members, Malik family. Prabhupada would say they were very aristocratic, very rich people. They had their own temple in their courtyard, very, very devoted. But Prabhupada said, but some of them, they are a little loose in their character and they may have affairs with prostitutes. But still they are all great devotees, Prabhupada would say. So, as long as somebody lives in the material world, there are going to be harassment from material desires. So that's what Krishna is saying. But still, one is not going to give up one's devotion just because one had the desire. By the strength of the desire, one will be able to kick away by the strength of the devotion rather, one will be able to kick away all the desires. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives two examples. One example he gives is to elaborate on this point. One example he gives is somebody may be in a war, and in the war they are fighting their enemy, very chivalrous warrior, fighting. But during the course of fighting, somebody may shoot an arrow at them and the arrow may pierce their body half and still protruding a little bit outside. But even though they are actually pierced by the arrow, still the virya, the intensity for them to keep on fighting is so strong that they will bear the pain, their body will still lose the blood, but they won't die, they'll still keep on fighting. Okay, I remember reading in one Tamil literature in my school days that explains about the chivalrous nature of warriors. So in one instance, it's actually there is a warrior who, in the course of his fighting, he is holding a spear. And there is an elephant that is coming, racing towards him. And on the back of the elephant is a warrior who is having a bow, who is shooting. So this foot soldier, he takes the spear, hurls at the elephant, but it misses the elephant. So now he is nirayudapani. No ayuda, no weapon he has. But right at the same time when he is hurling the spear, the one on the back of the elephant, he shoots an arrow. So he releases the spear, his spear misses the target. At the same time, his body is now pierced with an arrow. And now he is looking at the elephant, looking at the warrior who's being carried by that elephant, and he's feeling momentarily little sadness. His sadness is about, there is this elephant and there is this guy. I would like to put up a fight, but I have no weapon. And then he looks at the arrow in his body, and he brings a smile in his face, and he feels, yeah, now I can fight. Then he pulls it out, and then he goes kills him like that. So Prabhupada would say for Kshatriyas, when they actually fight, this is their dharma, this is their path to heavenly kingdom. So their nature is like that, they are completely devoted to that service for the society that way. So here we see Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives this example, just like how in a war somebody may be pierced with a weapon, with an arrow, nevertheless they'll still bear it and they'll keep on fighting. The intensity for them to fight is much more stronger than the impact of the pierced arrow. So same way, intensity to perform bhakti is so strong compared to the harassment of material desires. Okay, if somebody keeps on serving the Supreme Lord, serving Radha Gopinath, desires may be there, but then gradually what will happen is that intensity will grow so strong that it won't even bother anymore. Vishavani vartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasapyasya param drishtva nivartate. So this is one example Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives. Second example he gives is about somebody who may be diseased. That doesn't mean they will die. Their strong push to actually survive will be much more stronger. So even though they may be afflicted by disease, still they won't quit their body. They'll still survive to live rest of their life. So he gives these two examples, that just like how somebody who is deceased, if they take the medicine, they get cured. Just like how somebody who is fighting, if they keep on actually fighting, not minding theirs, with that intensity they'll be able to survive. So same way, when we practice bhakti, it's natural to have difficulties. None of us are pure devotees. None of us are pure. So any difficulty that comes our way, we should understand that there is only one remedy for any difficulty that we get in this life. Be it in our material pursuits or be it in spiritual pursuits. And the only remedy is Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan Ki Jai. So simply meditating on them, praying to them, and then intensifying our bhakti. Tivrena bhakti yogena hejeta purusham param. So simply by doing that, these other disturbances will go away. Text 19. My dear Uddhava, just as a blazing fire turns firewood into ashes, similarly, devotion unto me completely burns to ashes sins committed by my devotees. I think it's in the verse which we actually read. Swapada mulam bhajata priyasya tyaktonya bhavasya hari paresha vikarma yachot patitam kadanchi dunoti sarvam hridi sannivista. For somebody who has given up everything and taken to the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, even accidentally if they commit some sinful activities, the reactions for that gets burnt immediately by who? By Gopinath sitting in the heart. Dunoti sarvam hridi sannivista. Hridi sannivista. Supreme Lord is sitting inside the heart. Just like we study, when we do any activity, aprarabdha phalam papam, kutam, bijam, phalanmukam, we see. There is a kuta, there is bija, there is manifested result, unmanifested result, there is something in seed's face, and there is a proclivity also that gets increased. All of that will get wiped out simply if one takes to the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. So same way, when we chant Hare Krishna, we are inviting the Supreme Lord to come and reside in our heart, and he is seated there. As soon as some sinful reaction, if there is some accidental sin, if somebody commits, and if the sinful reaction is supposed to come in and create that propensity inside, so that, just like a thief example we give. Somebody may be stealing, they may escape the law, but because of karma, they get more entangled in that bad habit. How? That seed also goes deep inside. One time they sin, they want to sin again. But what happens for a devotee? Dunoti sarvam hridi sannivista. Supreme Lord is seated inside the heart. As soon as a devotee actually does something, immediately the Supreme Lord wipes out the sinful reactions and he burns all the reactions to ashes. So, my dear Uddhava, just as a blazing fire turns firewood into ashes, similarly, devotion unto me completely burns to ashes sins committed by my devotees. One should be, purport you see, one should be careful to note that the Lord refers to devotion that is like a blazing fire. So we also study Namnad Baladasya hi papa buddhi, to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. Then here specifically it's given one's devotion which is like a blazing fire, which means one who is sincerely practicing Tivra Bhakti. To such a person it will happen. But if somebody is thinking, I'll take undue advantage of this concession that Supreme Lord is giving, so I will chant on one hand, and on the other hand I will actually keep on committing sinful activities, then this verse doesn't apply for them. Why? Because in that case the devotion is not like blazing fire, it's just coming a little bit. Have you got experience lighting a wooden stove in India? It will take a long time to catch. Once it catches, the coal will continue to burn. So if our bhakti is like that, little bit only. Some of the wood, if you light it, because inside the wood there will be little cavities. You light fire in the other end, the other end will start to bring out smoke. Have you seen it? It's as if it's smoking cigarette. In a small hole, the fumes alone will come, smoke will come out. Or if the wood is wet, our bhakti is like that. Then you try as hard as you may, you will still not be able to light the fire. So this verse applies to only those who have taken to Tasmad Ekena Manasa, Bhagavan Sattva-tampati, Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha. So one who has given up everything and taken to complete shelter of the Supreme Lord by Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha, Smartavyascha, Ichchatabhayam. There is a verse. So one takes up to the hearing, chanting, remembering of the Supreme Lord to such a person, Tasmad Ekena Manasa. Ekena Manasa means it's single pointed focus. If somebody does it, then what happens is the Supreme Lord actually removes all the fear. Ichchatabhayam. He removes whatever fear that one may have. But if somebody thinks, let me do this so I can take undue advantage of this, then this concession, then it doesn't apply. So this verse applies to only those whose devotion is like a blazing fire. My dear Uddhava, the unalloyed devotional service rendered to me by my devotees bring me under their control. How many times did Krishna say that in Uddhava Gita section itself? I cannot be thus controlled by those engaged in mystic yoga, Sankhya philosophy, pious work, Vedic study, austerity, or renunciation. I remember there was one guy, in India, in some places you see somebody may actually hold a whip. They have different ways, when they beg, they'll beg differently. Some people will actually perform some singing, some may do some artistic work. Similarly, there is one type, what they will do is they have a whip in their hand and they will beat themselves. You have seen. They'll beat themselves and then people around, they'll feel pity and they'll give money. I remember I happened to witness one, and one guy standing right next to me, he was telling me, you are beating yourself, why should I give you money like that? So when I read this, that thought came to my mind. My dear Uddhava, the unalloyed devotional service rendered to me by my devotees brings me under control. I cannot be thus controlled by those engaged in mystic yoga. Krishna is sitting here. If you directly offer service to the Supreme Lord by Bhakti Yoga, you can control the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada in one place is chastising the Mayavadis. Why are these Mayavadis wanting to become like God? Become one with God and become God. You can become greater than God. Become a devotee. Look at Mother Yashoda, like that Prabhupada says, chastising. So here, Krishna is there, somebody goes and offers the service directly to him, then Krishna, feeling so grateful, he gives himself to the worshipper. On the other hand, Krishna is there, somebody is sitting in the forest and doing mystic yoga. It's like somebody beating themselves. Why should anyone give money? You beat yourself. Sankhya philosophy, one sits and analyzes. Pious work, Vedic study, austerity, renunciation, all this is good to protect oneself from doing something bad. But something which is even better is to engage all the senses in the service of the Lord. Okay, in one sense, all of this, what it will do is it will definitely purify oneself. It will stop one from committing any sinful activity. That's how much each one of these other processes are capable of doing. Okay, mystic yoga, Sankhya philosophy, pious work, Vedic study, austerity, renunciation, all of them will stop. Their capacity is to stop us from doing bad activity. That's all. But it cannot engage us in doing properly something good. Okay, imagine a rich man gives $1 million to his son. And he says, my dear son, keep it, I'm going for a world tour, I'll come back and then I'll talk to you. He gives $1 million, goes around, comes after 6 months and he comes and asks the son, my dear son, what did you do with the $1 million? Well, I didn't engage in sinful activity. Good. I didn't do anything with it. Okay, still okay. But you could have done something useful with that. Same way. Each one of these, there is senses Krishna has given, there is subtle sense, gross sense, mind, intelligence, everything is there. One can put all of these in the service of the Lord and do something useful. Or one can take up to any one of the other paths just to abstain from doing something sinful. Now, if somebody engages everything in the service of the Lord, they automatically abstain from doing something sinful. So, Bhakti Yoga gives what every other process gives, but in addition to that, it gives a positive effect also. All the other process, austerity, mystic yoga, Sankhya yoga, everything, they purifies us absolutely. They stops us from doing some sinful activity, okay, at best. But then Bhakti Yoga also gives these two. But in addition to that, Bhakti Yoga is offering something productive, something useful to the Supreme Lord. And then Supreme Lord himself becomes sold out by that service, and the devotee gets the Supreme Lord himself as their property. So that is why it is considered superior. Text 21, only by practicing unalloyed devotional service with full faith in me can one obtain me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am naturally dear to my devotees who take me as the only goal of their loving service. By engaging in such pure devotional service, even the dog eaters can purify themselves from the contamination of their lower birth. There are 3 words Krishna uses. If you see, the Sanskrit is Ekaya, Shraddhaya, Mannishta. 3 words. Ekaya means unalloyed, Shraddhaya means with faith, and Mannishta, fixing me as the only goal. Okay, so Ekaya, Shraddhaya, and Mannishta. So these 3 qualities, if one imbibes, one exhibits in one's devotional service, then Supreme Lord becomes obtainable. By engaging in such a pure devotional service, even the dog eaters can purify themselves. What is that verse? Aho batasva pachoto gariyan yajivagre vartate nama tubhyam te tapas juhu shashnurarya brahmanu churnama grinanti ete. Mother Devahutis. She is glorifying, oh my Lord, whoever who has chanted your holy name, they have done 4 activities automatically. If somebody chants Krishna, that means just by saying that word Krishna, they have automatically done 4 activities. That means tepus tapa, austerity, they must have performed all kinds of austerities. Tepus tapa juhu, they must have performed the sacrifices. Shashnurarya, they must have taken bath in all the holy rivers. Brahmanuchur, one must have studied all the Vedic scriptures. Tapa, austerity. Juhu, yagya. Shashnurarya, one must have taken bath in all the holy rivers. Brahmanuchur, one must have heard the Shruti Praman. One must have studied all the Vedas simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Prabhupada would often give this example. Crorepati is automatically a lakpati, like the Prabhupada would say. A billionaire is automatically a millionaire. So same way, one doesn't have to be called as a millionaire. One can be an overnight billionaire also straight away. So same way, one who takes up to this path of bhakti, even ahobata swapacha. Swapacha is one who is a dog eater. Even if somebody is a dog eater, simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one automatically wipes out all the previous karma. Not only that, one automatically is considered to have performed all these 4 different types of activities, or spiritual activities actually, which is to do austerities, to take bath, to offer fire sacrifices, as well as to have studied all the Vedas. So that's the effect that's actually given here. Ekaya, Shraddhaya, Mannishta. Ekaya is single pointed focus. Shraddhaya, full faith, and Mannishta, mind being fixed on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Text 22. Religious activities endowed with honesty and mercy or knowledge obtained with great penance cannot completely purify one's consciousness if they are bereft of loving service to me. We come across instances in the Shastras of many sages you will come across. They do tapasya, they don't even, like Durvasa Muni, you will come across curses. The very name Durva means he subsists only on eating durva grass, the juice of durva grass actually. So that's how austere he is. But sometimes too much austerity can make one's heart very hard. Even renunciation for that matter. That's why you will see, even in Uddhava Gita itself, Krishna says, it's good to analyze what is good and bad, but to constantly discern right from wrong, good from bad, separating good from bad itself is bad quality, he says. Why? Because it constantly puts one in dual nature only. This, that. Then it's very easy to actually commit aparadh also. In that sense, even mentally we can easily commit aparadh. So if somebody takes up austerity but without any value, without the actual purpose of pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then actually it can make one's heart very hard. Sometimes, Shastras has got so many rules and regulations. If you think about it, Prabhupada has given a very, very simple process. Prabhupada says, okay, sleep for 6 to 8 hours, 6 to 7 hours, sleep. Then wake up, chant, do some service. And then fasting, you do fasting only on major festival days and Ekadashi. Ekadashi is the main fasting we do. So then Prabhupada says, this is enough. Whatever remaining time we have after doing our sadhana and everything, then you take your time, use it in spreading Krishna consciousness to others. Now, we can study more Vedic scriptures even from Vaishnava literature, and we can discover so many different types of austerities. But what is the use of that austerity? If it's not aimed at pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if it's not aimed at pleasing Srila Prabhupada. That's why when we practice Krishna consciousness also, we need to be very careful. Not jump up the gun, not go past our founder Acharya. We simply follow the prescription that is given by Prabhupada. That's it. Other than that, scriptures, there are so much. Even we see this famous verse from Mahabharata also, right? Tarko pratishta shruteyo vibhinnam. There is, for every thought process, there is a counter thought. For every opinion, there is a counter opinion. So which is correct? We can keep on arguing. Best is to simply follow Mahajana Yena Katasa Panta. Tarko pratishta shruteyo vibhinnam, nasham rishiresya matam na bhinnam, dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam, mahajano yena gatasa panta. So rather than sitting and giving our own opinion, is this better or is that better, and we waste our time this way, Yudhishthir Maharaj says it's much easier simply mahajana yena gatasa panta. Simply follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. What did Prabhupada say? We simply follow that. Our austerity is defined by Prabhupada. Our service is defined by Prabhupada. Our lifestyle is defined by Prabhupada. Scriptures may say so many things. In one place, one disciple is asking Prabhupada, Krishna is saying only one who is free from all material desires, dualities, sinful propensities, only they can go back to Godhead. Prabhupada says, yes. Prabhupada, this is so difficult. Prabhupada says, that's all right, but what did your spiritual master say? Prabhupada, you said 16 rounds and follow 4 regulative principles and everything will be fine. Yeah, then do. Prabhupada, but Krishna says that you have to be pure, you have to be free from sins, you need to be free from material propensities, only then you can go. Then Prabhupada says again, what did your spiritual master say? Which is him in that case. Just like sometimes Krishna also says, Yagyartat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhana taddartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. My Lord, but you are Vishnu. Yeah, that may be. But he speaks about himself also as a third person. So you should take to the exclusive shelter of that supreme person. That is also him. He speaks like that. So Prabhupada here also, he speaks about himself in third person. So what did your spiritual master say? Then the disciple says, Prabhupada, you said chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regulative principles, and then you can go back to Godhead. Then do. Then again the disciple, third time also he says, Prabhupada, but Krishna says this. Krishna may say anything. What did your spiritual master say? Prabhupada didn't allow him to finish. Krishna may say anything. What did your spiritual master say? Then he says, follow 4 regulative principles, chant 16 rounds. Prabhupada said, just to do that, you will go back to Godhead. So, we don't need to discover all these newer and newer austerities to spend our time usefully, but just for ourselves. Again, it's just selfish. Prayena deva munaya svavimukti kama. If you see Maunam Charanti Vichanes, Parartha Nisha, you will see there that verse, even though Prahlad Maharaj is actually speaking for those mystic yogis who give up everything, go to the forest and sit and do tapa, you read the purport of that verse, Prabhupada speaks for devotees only. Prabhupada says how even inside Krishna consciousness, we can be very selfish in the name of, I'm Bhajananandi Prabhu, or I'm doing so many austerities, I can do so much fasting, everything. But what's the value? Fasting, austerities, that is for benefiting who? For ourselves only. It's still selfish. But the point here is, we are already following the process, chanting 16 rounds to follow 4 regulative principles. Whatever remaining time we have, we are supposed to use it for other people. But if we think, I'm doing already, but what are extra time also, let me just spend for me. This is as good as, imagine somebody catches a train here in the central station, going towards Canberra. And a person inside the train, now the train has started to move, train is going full speed. And if a person is running inside, and you ask the person, why are you running? And if the person says, I'm running inside the moving train so I can reach Canberra faster. How stupid will that be? So, we don't need to discover anything new, something which doesn't give much value. Prabhupada was so strict, even in one of the earlier days. Devotees one day Prabhupada comes to the temple and devotees were singing, Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. And Prabhupada comes and he says, who started this bhajan? This is in 26 2nd Avenue. And then one devotee says, and then Prabhupada quotes Brahmanda Purana. Sahasra namnam punyanam triya vritya tuyat phalam eko vritya tu krishnasya namekam tat prayachati. If you chant Krishna's name once, that is equal to chanting Vishnu Sahasranam 3 times or 3,000 names of Vishnu. So Prabhupada says, Krishna's name is more powerful than Lord Ram. Don't waste your time, chant Krishna's name. Prabhupada is telling that for even people who are chanting Ram's name. What to speak of, people discovering newer and newer austerities. We don't need to. Okay, so we need to understand that we need to be pure, we need to be practicing Krishna consciousness properly, we need to do our sadhana, but at the same time, you will almost always see the qualities of pure devotees. One who is merciful to all the living entities. And Prabhupada says, you can try so many ways to change the material situation for people. But Prabhupada says, but you can never come to the end of it because material problems are created by one's karma. So Prabhupada says, we can never be able to bring people happiness by giving them material solution. Temporarily you may, Prabhupada says. So Prabhupada says, so the compassion to the highest degree can be expressed only by reinstating the jiva back to its original constitutional position. So Prabhupada says, that's why distributing the books is so important. We are just a few days away from Bhadra Purnima. Those of you who haven't got Bhagavatam set, this is a good way to show favor to yourself. This is a good way to share this knowledge with other people also. You can visit our website, visit our Facebook page, and see how you can participate in it. So, the greatest welfare activity, we can actually show to other living entities how the greatest act of compassion is what? By reinstating, by giving knowledge to the lost jiva about Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, about our eternal father and mother, and reinstating them in a course by which they can actually proceed back towards the spiritual world. That's the greatest welfare activity we can do. So, Krishna is saying here, each one of these different processes that we see, be it austerities, penances and everything, they don't have much value when it comes to pleasing the Supreme Lord as much as doing devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Text 22. I think we discussed this now. 23. If one's hairs do not stand on end, how can the heart melt? And if the heart does not melt, how can tears of love flow from the eyes? If one does not cry in spiritual happiness, how can one render loving service to the Lord? And without such service, how can the consciousness be purified? When you read this, you will feel very ashamed. I'll read this again. Krishna is saying, how can you render loving service if you are not crying in spiritual happiness? How many of you are crying in spiritual happiness when you chant japa? Prabhu, I can barely open my eyes. So, Krishna is saying, if one does not cry in spiritual happiness, how can one render loving service to the Lord? How many of you cry in spiritual happiness when you get opportunity to clean, to do any service? And if the heart does not melt, how can tears of love flow from the eyes? If one's hairs does not stand on end, how can the heart melt? When you read verses like this, you think, what is it that I'm practicing in the name of Bhakti Yoga? Here he is saying, giving very systematically, how if one's hairs does not stand on end, the heart won't melt. If the heart won't melt, then you won't get tears of ecstasy. If you don't get tears of ecstasy, you can't perform loving service. And if you don't perform loving service, then you cannot get purified. So, we have a lot of work to do. And without such service, how can the consciousness be purified? And such service only is capable of completely purifying the soul. Whatever we are doing is devotional service definitely. But in terms of the quality of devotional service, this is what is needed. Many times we get a little impatient. What is this? I'm chanting more and more and more. The more I chant, more sleepy I feel. The more I chant, more disturbed I feel. Sometimes you will come across also. You know, I remember, I'm pretty sure all of you have experience. If you have given beads to someone and you tell them you chant, all your problems will be solved. And a week later they come and they tell you the exact opposite result. Have you got that experience? Ever since I chanted this, my mind is very disturbed. I was listening to Devamrita Maharaj's class and he gave this analogy. I think I shared this few times before. Just like how when you play a sport in a ground, after that you come back and you stand under the shower and you scrub. What's the first thing that comes out? It's just the filth, the dirt. Same way, when you chant Hare Krishna, first thing that comes out is all the dirt that's there. That's why you see all of them keep chanting, they'll go away. Like that. Someone is telling to Prabhupada, some pseudo-yogi, Swamiji, when I sit and meditate, I see blue light. Prabhupada says, continue meditating, blue light will go off. So, same effect. When you keep chanting, impurities will, first thing is impurities will come. So, don't get shocked when you get such question. We have answer, safe answer. And that is, when somebody starts to chant, then first thing that comes out of them is the filth and everything, because Cheta Darpana Marjan, the heart is getting cleansed. So, it's natural to see all those bad things come out. Text 24. A devotee whose speech is sometimes choked up, gadgada, vag gadgada, nayanam galada shrudaraya, vadanam gadgada, Vak Gadgada is choking. Vak Gadgada means when somebody's speech, Vak is speech. A devotee whose speech is sometimes choked up, whose heart melts, who cries continually and sometimes laughs, who feels ashamed and cries out loudly and then dances, a devotee thus fixed in loving service to me purifies the entire universe. You read all these symptoms, it scares you a bit. A devotee whose speech is sometimes choked up, whose heart melts, who cries continually and sometimes laughs, who feels ashamed and cries out loudly and then dances. A devotee thus fixed in loving service. You call this fixed in loving service? In our understanding, we can't even comprehend about the symptoms of pure devotees. So here Krishna is telling these are the symptoms of pure devotees. Where is the question of ego here? Where is the question of pride here? Where is the question of labha, puja, pratishta? Nothing is there. There is simply chanting and dancing in abandon, simply glorifying the Supreme Lord and feeling grateful in one's heart, and because of that one is getting tears of love. 25. Just as gold, when smelted in fire, gives up its impurities and returns to its pure brilliant state, similarly the spirit soul absorbed in the fire of Bhakti Yoga is purified of all contamination caused by previous fruitive activities and returns to its original position of serving me in the spiritual world. So he is giving example of gold. When it's smelted, when it's purified, heated, then it gives up all its impurities. Similarly, in the heart of all of us, there are sinful activities or reactions of sinful activities, or the desires for future sinful or material activities. Simply by practicing Krishna consciousness, the fire of Bhakti Yoga, it purifies all of that as much as the fire purifies the gold. When a diseased eye is treated with medicinal ointment, it gradually recovers its power to see. Similarly, as a conscious living entity cleanses himself of mental contamination by hearing and chanting the pious narrations of my glories, he regains his ability to see me, the absolute truth, in my spiritual form. Most of this, if you see, sometimes it's a little incomprehensible, because it's very hard for us to relate every desire as having a subtle cause. We always tend to think mechanically, everything. Even if you have some thoughts, you want to remember, what do? You write it down, correct? So our use of subtle body is very, very weak. Our conscious usage of subtle body is very weak. So normally, even if you get a thought or an idea, you don't want to forget it. So immediately you write it down or you type it. So even something subtle also we deal with on a gross platform only. So here, any activity that we do, the origin of that is coming from subtle body only. So any process that we actually do in Krishna consciousness, even though externally it looks like it's done in a gross platform, actually what they do is they go and have an impact on our subtle body, reprogramming ourselves, and that way whatever desire that will push us to do sinful activities in future, they get wiped out straight away. Okay, so that's how bhakti works. So if you, even if you take, for example, you have a thorn that pierced your foot or something, you want to take it out, then you need something else which is much more smaller than that in order to penetrate through the skin, smaller than the pores of the skin, so it can be poked and then it can pull it out. So same way, any activity that we actually do, the origin of that is our subtle body only. But in order for the subtle body to get purified, we need something even more subtler to go in and do the job. So that's why we do Krishna conscious activity, spiritual activity, that has the capability, it is much more subtler than that, most pure form. It then goes and it acts on us. Even though the way how we invoke that spiritual energy is by using our gross senses, that is okay. But using this gross senses, we invoke, just like you will see creation. If you see the creation process, it starts from something subtle. It starts from ether, sound, so on and so forth we see, and then finally You'll find water, fire, and then earth. But then we also have example even materially. You come across arani wood. It's a wood only, 2 pieces of wood. But by friction, what can you do? This is a gross element. Using that gross element, you can create one element which is more subtler than that, which is fire. Or even you take, rubbing of 2 bamboo sticks, like Prabhupada would often give that example for forest fire. Even materially, we have example of a gross element actually causing or the reverse creating the subtle element. Even though, according to the original flow, we see fire actually getting created even before earth is getting created. But if you take wood, which comprises of earth only, the earth here is creating fire, it is creating subtle element. So same way, when we do devotional service, our devotional service may be something like picking up, or picking up a broom and sweeping, for example, or chanting with beads, or hearing, or doing something which is more physical, cooking, chopping vegetables, so on and so forth. Still, just like how from the wood you can actually create from a more gross material element, you can create a less grosser or a subtle element, which is fire. Similarly, even though materially we are using all our senses, it is possible by this process of Krishna consciousness, by this mystical process, to create spiritual energy out of it. And that energy is capable of going in and capable of uprooting all our sinful desires, which are relatively more grosser than it. When a diseased eye is treated with medicinal ointment, it gradually recovers its power to see. Similarly, as a conscious living entity cleanses himself of material contamination by hearing and chanting the pious narrations of my glories, he regains his ability to see me. Text 27, the mind of one meditating upon the objects of sense gratification is certainly entangled in such objects. But if one constantly remembers me, then the mind is absorbed in me. Yato yato nischalati manas chanchalam astiram. So Krishna is saying, one should, just like how the mind, whatever it meditates on, it gets hooked. Same point we discussed in the previous chapter also about Hamsavatar's instructions, when the 4 Kumaras asked Lord Brahma. So same way, Krishna is saying one should keep on bringing one's mind to the lotus feet of the Lord. How? Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, or by meditating on the Supreme Lord, or by taking darshan of Radha Gopinath. This way what happens, again and again and again, just like normally whatever the mind meditates, it gets hooked there. So similarly, hooked onto it, the object of meditation. So similarly, when the mind is again and again directed, again and again pushed, using spiritual intelligence, pushed towards hearing, pushed towards chanting the holy name of the Lord, then mind will also meditate on the Supreme Lord. That way, one will get purified. I'll finish with next a couple more verses. Therefore, one should reject all material processes of elevation which are like mental creations of a dream, and should completely absorb one's mind in me. By constantly thinking of me, one becomes purified. Being conscious of the eternal self, one should give up association with women and those intimately associated with women. Sitting fearlessly in a solitary place, one should concentrate the mind on me with great attention, atandritaha, which means with great care. It's very easy to make a mistake and go back, to take backward steps. But we have to be very, very careful. Prabhupada gives this example of one biblical story. Prabhupada says that in Krishna consciousness we should never look back. And Prabhupada says of one story of how somebody, he was climbing the hill, and they said as soon as they turned back, then they would turn to stone or sand, something like that. So Prabhupada says it's likewise in Krishna consciousness also, we should not go, because the moment we turn back and look at our past desires and everything, the mind dwells on that, and that what happens? Then it becomes very hard, because mind again starts to meditate on that, and then we get pulled down. So instead of that, Prabhupada says one should always remain with a cool head. Prabhupada says in one lecture, in a Nectar of Devotion lecture, one should remain with cool head and one should constantly meditate on the Supreme Lord. And that way, one can take positive steps forward. Text 30. Of all kinds of suffering and bondage arising from various attachments, none is greater than the suffering and bondage arising from the attachment to women, and for women, attachment to men. and intimate contact with those attached to women. In other words, association with opposite sex, or association with those who are attached to the opposite sex, either directly or indirectly. And then text 31, Uddhava asks, Sri Uddhava said, My dear lotus-eyed Krishna, by what process should one who desires liberation meditate upon you? Of what specific nature should his meditation be? And upon which form should he meditate? Kindly explain to me this topic of meditation. And Krishna will go in detail about Ashtanga Yoga for rest of the chapter. We'll discuss in the next class. Any questions or comments? Okay. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaved Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki jai, Jai Nittai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
It is in. Goodness, you think, sattvic. No. Wrong. Failed the test miserably. Back to zero. It's the mode of passion. The whole thing is about the mode of passion. It is about making the material world so beautiful, perfect, for enjoyment, you see. That's what it's about. It's the mode of passion that drives the whole thing. It's not the mode of goodness, you see. We've done it. Paradise on earth. We've got it. Swiss cheese, Swiss chocolate, Swiss bank account, Swiss passport, Swiss, done. Right? And this is the mode of passion, because the mode of passion is simply trying to create a little paradise on earth. Right? Like in Australia, a little similar. We call the British, we call them POMs, which means prisoner of Mother England, right? The guys that got stuck over there, I mean, they send the convicts to Australia, and hey, those convicts, they're doing great. They're having a party. They're enjoying like anything. And the suckers, the losers, are the POMs, They're still at home, prisoners of Mother England, sitting there in that drab country. Yes, POMs they are, right? That's the whole idea. And we've got paradise, That's the mode of ignorance. That's illusion. Illusion, passion and ignorance. We have. So, the Vedic literature is very sober and is giving us a very clear vision. So Arjuna is here as a warrior, not just a passionate muscle man who happens to be into martial arts, right? Not just some, one of those black belt guys who walking around flexing his muscles, or what Arjuna says is